Going to call to order the City of Murfreesboro Construction Board of Adjustments and Appeals for Tuesday, October 28th, 2025. First thing I want to do is open it up for public comment. Anybody want to have anything they want to say? The floor is open. All right, no comments, so we'll proceed to roll call. Precious, could you do roll call?
I can. Michael Picklesheimer.
Here.
Lau Lynch. Ben Blake.
Here.
Carolyn Lester. Here. Ryan Maloney. Here. John Murray. Here. Matthew Taylor.
All right, thank you. Next on the agenda, review and approve of the minutes from the September 23rd meeting. Entertain a motion.
Move that the minutes be approved as presented.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right. Next is the appeal of a decision, determination, order, notice of the building official. Kevin, would you like to present this to us?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Chairman Picklesheimer and Board. So before you guys today is an appeal of a decision based on some Clary Park townhome development presented by Ryan Homes. They are here in attendance if you guys have any questions for them. We kind of open up this little PowerPoint, try to give you guys something to look at. So again, like I said, this is Clary Park subdivision. If you guys are familiar with this, it is going to be like, you know, our main event, in and out, town place over in that area. How many, Nick, I'm going to put you on the spot. How many homes is it?
80.
80. So 80 homes. They're all going to be townhome, 3-4-story units. So here's an example of one of the elevations. They're going to offer, I think, 4, 5, 6 units, possibly, or 3, 4, 5 units. But the design there, as you guys can see, is changes from 3 to 4 story. This is just an example, like I said, just of a 5 unit that I threw out here for you guys to view. The top floor, if you look at the right elevation, you can see the 4th floor is kind of a half floor with the other top of the roof being, you know, a balcony. But again, this is just an example of what they could look like. So here's kind of a rundown of why we're here before you guys. We've been meeting with these guys for about the past year. You know, Ryan Homes have been great to work with. We've been kind of working it out. They started meeting with us early to try to do their due diligence, which we appreciate that. And then now we've got, I believe it's been approved by Planning Commission. These guys are ready to start kind of pulling permits and getting going out there. So this is the requirement from the building code. 3-story units are built out of the residential code, but once you add the 4th floor, it turns over into the building code. So most of our townhomes in town are 3-story units, and they don't have a sprinkler system. No sprinklers are involved for that. Once you go 4th story out of the building code, you do got to have a sprinkler system. There's different types of sprinkler systems. There's a 13D, a 13R, and then a full-blown 13 system, which we don't really have to get into all that unless you guys would like to. But what they're proposing here is using a 13D sprinkler system, which I believe D is for domestic line. So it's I guess the less evasive of the sprinkler systems. It's the easier one to install, the 13D system. So according to this table out of the building code, type 5B construction, which is all wood, all right, so it's going to be built like a conventional home. A 13D system works up to 40 feet in height, all right? The average height of these units is 39 feet 11 inches. So they've done their math, right? We meet that threshold. So as far as those requirements, we're good at this table. We don't have an issue with that. So this table right here is what we're trying to get the variance for, and they have asked for an equivalent means to this. So again, this is kind of the same table, but what this is saying, where this table is based on the height of the overall building, they meet that. This table right here, same thing, is saying you can only build up to 3 stories with this sprinkler system. And obviously, a lot of these units will be 3 stories, but a few may be 4 stories, depends on what the client chooses. So that is kind of where I'm going to stop right here and maybe let Nick and these guys take over kind of what they're proposing, what they're thinking. But that right there is kind of why we're in front of you guys today. They're appealing this decision right here, where technically it has to be a 13R system instead of a 13D based on the allowable stories. So I'm going to let Nick take it from here.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. Again, my name is Nick Bateman with Ryan Homes, with our land department, and just oversee kind of how the process transfers from, we contract lots with a developer who's developing land and building infrastructures, and then Ryan Homes, we would come in and permit for the townhomes and go vertical. And like Kevin was mentioning, a 13D is what we are seeking approval to use for any and all unit that would be required to do so. Kind of our preliminary understanding of what we would be required to install here is, if any unit was a 4-story unit, then the 13D system would be required. And I guess as time went on, when we started to clarify which units would actually be 4-story versus 3-story, then it came about that further understanding of the code was that once it gets to 4 stories, the 13R would be required, which was not incorporated into the infrastructure design that our developer and SEC went under the understanding of designing for this product. And we provided the architectural elevations through Planning Commission to try and get an understanding of what would meet the requirements for the community. And what's on the screen there is a representation of what a building could look like. We do not build spec homes, so if a customer came in and wanted a 3-story unit, they'd be able to select that, other than any 4-story unit that is identified from Planning Commission as required to be 4-story. So there are a handful of end units that Planning Commission wanted to see as required to be 4-story for kind of a high visibility architectural look. Aside from that, there may be 1 4-story with 4 3-story units in there, or there could be, all 5 units at 3 stories. So with that, reaching out to Kevin and Murfreesboro Fire, talking through what kind of parameters we would need to provide to show what a 13D system would look like. We consulted with Thorpe Design to come up with what the fire flow measures would be required to support a 13D system in this area, as well as a all 4 floors design of where the sprinkler heads would be, shut-off valves located in the house, and any permit requirements that may come from that. And so we've shared all that with Building and Codes and Murfreesboro Fire. Believe that we've met the need for the fire flow capacity. Just wanted to understand if we'd be able to proceed with just the 13D system that would run off the domestic house water line for each unit.
And so I've also attached, which we have it, here's the sprinkler design letter. We've had numerous meetings, and I've also asked Fire Marshal Lowe to attend. He's here. I know you guys may remember Carl Pease. He's the new Carl Pease, I guess you could say. I don't know if we've had him in front of the board yet, but like I said, we've had numerous meetings. CED is aware of it. CED is okay. Myself and Fire Marshal Lowe, we're okay with this design. I feel like, we're under that 40 feet, right, on that one table, so we're good. So, I almost look at it like if you did, if they would have done three stories at 12 feet apiece, you know what I mean, we're under that height, and we're meeting the flow, we're meeting the minimum requirements. So kind of a breakdown required by the 2018 IBC on the left is, like Nick stated, in the four-story units, you would have a 13R system, and in three-story units, you have a 13D system. So you're going to have different systems, which could be confusing as far as responding, I believe, for the fire department, because they work in different ways. And then a 1 hour rated wall is required between each unit because it's out of the building code and it has to be sprinkled, unlike the residential code. So kind of what we're proposing is using a 13D system in all units. Instead of the 1 hour wall, go to the 2 hour wall. So now we have a greater rating in place between the units and what's actually required by code. All units will contain the same type of sprinkler system. And then Fire Marshal Lowe has requested that horn strobes will be placed on the front of each unit, which I believe Ryan Holmes have agreed to. So like I said, CUD has approved design. The fire suppression design can meet the requirements. And I believe staff will support this, you know.
Water pressure, have any problem with the water pressure on going up 4 stories on all these?
Yeah, we got the sprinkler design, and that's where I'm kind of thinking that 40 feet, we're going the same height. So whether it's 2 stories, 3 stories, 4 stories, the water pressure's there. So I think as far as we meet these requirements, I don't know if you got anything to add, Fire Marshal Lowe, to this, or go for it.
That was a critical aspect of it for me, was the water pressure. And Thorpe designed this letter, and I guess they did the math, and they stated it would work. So I have to rely on their engineers for that, but that was my holdup
Mine too.
for it being either, you know, the difference between 13D and 13R, so.
4 stories up and not having enough water pressure would be a little scary.
Yeah, so, 13D and 13R, same premises, they're designed to get people out, right? The water, not like a true 13 system, they throw higher up on the walls. The design sets are a little smaller. The flow is a little lower, but still, you know, I think they're 500 gallons a minute, where the others are 15 and 1,000, but they assured me that, you know, with the current setup over there, that it would meet that flow, so. Yeah. I mean,
We did provide the hydraulic calculations from Thorpe Design in the presentation, not knowing the final fire flow numbers, because that comes from once the fire hydrants in the areas that are improved are tested. We designed the system, or Thorpe designed it to meet, you know, a minimum that was even under what CED was offering there. So I think there are additional levers that could be pulled in case for some reason the fire flow was not there. But right now, I feel like all the calculations, you know, just to try and add a little more data to where those numbers came from, is available for anybody to see.
I did not include those, but we have them. It's 20 pages of calculations. I figured I'd save yourself. Ryan may like to look at that stuff, but.
I might nerd out on that, yeah. You know, was it the lowest tank elevation, you know, for CD's nearby tank come to mind? It's just worst case scenarios, right? Sure.
So kind of at the bottom of this slide in green, I kind of summed it up. You know, that's kind of what staff supports right there. And again, they are going above and beyond with the 2-hour wall and some of the things they're putting in to meet. And that's where we feel like it's going to be an equivalent, if not better, solution in place. So,
On the roof balconies of the 3rd floors, is that a rated roof system as far as not creating exposure to the 4-story next door?
I'm going to say that would be built, and they can speak on that, but the usual, maybe a 4-foot return, the rated return.
So I understand your question accurately.
The 3rd floor roof,
Yes, sir.
right next to where you got the 4-story come up, is that roof structure a rated roof structure?
I can get that answer. I believe we do have at least a 4-foot return between each unit where the 2-hour wall extends up above any roof line, so.
And they will be using the shaft liner product for the 2-hour wall.
believe I included that in the original submittal packet that showed kind of what system we're using, the DENS glass, DENS shield, the 1-inch thick, two of them
That's
together.
actually
It runs vertical from the
sprinkler design.
foundation
It's
up
really
to the
hard to
pitch of the
see.
roof line. That goes between each unit.
Okay. And then the water lines to each unit is such that they don't cross under any other units? Are they coming in through the front at the meters?
That's correct. So
So-
CUD has a designed gang water vault that has a single service coming into a vault that has individual water meters for each unit, and then we would connect into those vaults and a single line straight into each unit. For your question on the fire-rated partition wall, it's on the balconies. If we needed to run fire-rated sheathing on the outside of that wall before we put the hardy board on top, that's something also that we can take into consideration and do.
Any other questions?
Now, what if it's more than one unit on fire? Say you have a whole section of 4 of them, that's still going to be enough water pressure. I still worry about the water pressure. I mean, you've got one unit, probably, yeah, it's not going to be a problem. But you get 4 of them pulling on that same line. I am concerned about that.
So I would defer to Thorpe, maybe ask if they can shed a little light on that. But I know what I understand of the fire flow measures is how much water flow can come from each meter at any given time and what that minimum would be. And so that's factored into the calculations of what would be provided for each service.
Is Thorpe here?
Yes.
Would you mind speaking on that? There you go, John.
It depends on how nerded out you want to get to understand it. The benefits of the 13D system are, if you run a 13R, it's one riser for the whole building. That system runs through the entire building. If you have one occupant who's not home, forgets to keep their heat on, and that system freezes, then you could essentially lose the entire system for the entire building. Putting the system on fire watch if it freezes, if something was to break, if there was an activation of some kind. 13D units individually with water meters, they're calculated in a way that each unit has its own shutoff valve, which means if you lose one, the rest of the building is still usable, still in course. So you'd ask the question about what if there were 4 units on fire? 13D calculations, the way that it works, when you go from 13R, you have to calculate the 4 most demanding heads going off at any given time farthest away from the water source. And that system is connected with a fire department connection. So if the fire department had rolled up and the building was on fire, they could continue to pump water into these buildings through the fire sprinkler system. 13D is not. They're individual. And the calculations for 13D are the 2 most remote heads. And so what we do is we calculate for 2 fire sprinkler heads going off at the same time at the highest point of the 4th floor through NFPA. And the way that they do testing for 13D and 13R is we've overcalculated and overcompensated. So a 10% cushion is what we design our designs upon. We are greater than 10% cushion. And I don't have those numbers in front of me. Do you have the calculations right there? Mm-hmm. Let me take a look at those really quick. We are activating at a 13% cushion. So we're essentially saying we're 103% sure, based on pressures if they go off, that this system will activate and continue to flow. Our rating on the way that we've designed this system at the lowest spacing possible, which is the lowest amount of water that would be needed. So the sprinklers will be spaced inside the unit according to that. I believe the stats are 98% of home fires or house fires that occur with a single sprinkler head activation, 98% of them are either tamped to where there's no fire at that point, completely extinguished to where there's water mitigation, and then there's homeowners that move back in that night. So the likelihood that if you said if a building was on fire, if it caught on fire from the outside, that's not the intention of fire sprinklers, right? So if there was a fire in a garage, and the garages were not covered under 13D because that's not required in code, that's not what we've had in there. But let's just say there was a fire in the garage. The fire sprinkler system is not gonna, it's not gonna work anyways, and those units would catch on fire, and the fire department would have to show up and put out that fire. Fire sprinkler's intention is to give occupants in the home 10 minutes or greater to exit that home. The idea behind 13D and connected is that 98% of the time, the sprinklers are going to extinguish the fire inside that house anyways, which would prevent it from hitting any outside walls or 2-hour fire rated walls. So yes, there always is a variable if there is 4 units on fire, but the likelihood of a fire starting in 1 and catching 4 on fire across is low to 0 possibility with fire sprinklers installed.
I agree.
You agree, I agree.
This is, the 13D aspect of this is it's a much easier system to facilitate. Now, yes, you're not going to monitor those systems, where as a 13R you would. If there was activation, the fire department gets called. However, you combat that with horn strobes, which you put outside. So somebody hears it, somebody sees activation when the fire department rolls up, that horn strobe's going off, they know exactly where to go to. And water can be shut off in one location, right at the meter if you wanted to, as opposed to completely shutting off water to the entire building.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Sure.
I think in general, I've got a level of comfort with what's being presented. But there was something on the letter that I just had a question on.
Sure.
In terms of how we've had other folks come with variances in front of this board related to similar systems. And there'll be a fire protection engineer that stamps off on it. Is that the letter that's provided, or your fire system contractor? I mean, is there a necessary difference between the two that we need to acknowledge on the board if we're asked to make a variance between these systems? It's more of an open-ended question that I don't quite have the answer for.
This letter right here, that was written by me. The engineering of the system was done by me. The drawing of that system was done by me. So as a fire protection engineer with our company, we are C16. We're licensed to the state with our RME in-house. And yes, in a sense, anything that's coming to, we obviously hold the burden on the back end for testing purposes. The best way to go about testing is the bucket test. Once these are built, and we do run the bucket test, which ensures, hey, there is follow-up to this. The fire marshal's there, he's witnessed that when the bucket goes off, that we're filling the buckets up with the rated gallons per minute. But at the end of the day, as the sprinkler engineer and sprinkler company installing contractor, we would hold the burden. So yes, we would sign off or give any kind of proof that you would need on that.
Understood. I just saw the seal, and I live with the seal, and I have to sign across it and date it, and
Correct.
It was one of those things where it was presented in a different way than I'm used to seeing, so that.
Yep. And for us, at least for as a contractor, we're licensed through the state, and then our RME is actually an owner who's in our building as well. So he can, his secondary stamp, and I can't see that far, that might even be his stamp that's on top of that. Does it say Ben McCurley, or does it say Thorpe Design?
It says Thorpe Design. So I didn't know if that was just part of the logo, or if that was.
That's actually our stamp, our seal, and then he has one as well.
We have, you can't see it, and I can get you, I don't know if you want to pass that down to Ryan, but those are the actual sprinkler drawings. I think it has
That'd be
their,
my general position is if we're asked for a variance to that degree, then.
We can submit those plans directly to fire for approval and review. RME stamps on that one as well. We can,
Yeah, I think
through the city of
calculations are
Murfreesboro.
stamped by an engineer, then I've got a good level of comfort.
Yeah, it can be reviewed. One other thing I did want to point out, somebody had asked a question about water flow amounts. I believe you had said about minimum requirements. One of the things to keep in mind as well is the way that these are spaced is for that worst case scenario water flow. If this does get approved and hydrant flows come back and they are better, we can re-engineer this system for a better spacing to reduce costs for the builder, things like that. If the water flow did come back as less than. We also have other implements, other items that we can utilize to lower the requirements even farther and still maintain the same spacing requirements that we can put on the building to ensure that there's adequate flow.
I feel like, Ryan, if we were over that, if we were over the stories and the height, I think we would have a little bit more of an issue. But since we're under that allowable by height, again, it kind of goes back to if you had a 3-story unit that was 12-foot ceilings versus this, we still got that height,
Right.
So I feel like that's a big key, that we're under 40 feet, and the only thing they're asking the variance for would be the stories. But we have the equivalent, or if not better solution, with a 2-hour wall, orange strobes. So
Yeah, I guess the only thing else I'd mention is Mike's question on the roof, but then we got the 4-foot return, I guess, is.
anytime that wall would go up, that shaft liner would have to go all the way up on that 4-story side.
We would go all the way up on.
Yeah, that shaft liner would go, yeah.
Good with that then.
Yeah. Is that how you understand on that shaft liner? It
It
works
goes
like
up to
that.
the peak of the roof.
So it would carry all the way up, and then you'd have your 3, and then if you had another 4, you'd have that 2-hour go up too. So I don't think it goes 2 hours and stops at 1 the rest of the way. I think the shaft liner works just 2 hours.
Full shaft liner
Yeah.
wall from bottom, top of foundation all the way up to the peak of the roof. Top is point.
We've seen those work, firewalls.
Yeah, Precious actually, I don't mean to drag her into it, but she'll have to show you some videos afterwards. So she's got firsthand knowledge now of how well they work.
They work. They better.
Mike, I'd make a motion to approve the request as presented.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? It passes.
Good man.
Thank you.
All right. Next on the agenda, staff reports.
I don't have any. What do you want? Let's see here.
Drove all the way down here.
Now that Precious is manager, did she get a new office or anything?
No, she's gonna take my office here soon. We've had a commercial inspector, he quit. He's gonna be a commercial project superintendent for a commercial contracting company. So he quit last Monday, so we're scrambling for another inspector now. So yeah, we've got 2 or 3 new inspectors now. So everybody's trying to get tests, get certified, so. But as far as that, we're gonna keep chugging along. So we're still on track. Next spring, I got a meeting next week with Rutherford County Codes, or actually this Friday maybe, talking about the code changes. So we're still meeting on that, getting all that together. So I would anticipate next year, kind of like what we talked about last month, a fee increase for permits, and then the code change. So
Yeah, because we're pushing the 7-year limit, aren't we?
yeah. So, other than that, that's all I got.
How are you guys adjusting to the plan submittals?
I feel like it's pretty good. Obviously, right now on City Works, we only have that one portion of it rolled out, right? So we want to get to where the permitting and everything is through City Works. So, but right now it's just the commercial plan review. We're up to, I think, about 79 or 80 cases so far submitted since mid-August. Working the bugs out, right? We have a lot of this system I designed, so hopefully it works. I didn't design the back end and the IT, but as far as the workflow, it's kind of try to follow our process. So I feel pretty good about it. Like I said, we're working out bugs, but luckily, when we find a bug, we can fix it. You know, our current software that we use, whenever we find a bug, we have to call Canada and wait on somebody to help us, where this is more in-house. So we can respond, we're a little more flexible, but if you guys have any issues with it, just call me, shoot me an email, and we can find a workaround pretty quick, hopefully.
Kevin, did you find any opportunities going through your workflow process for refinement? Did you see anything that you said, we can do this differently, or do this better, or eliminate that step?
Yeah, I think kind of goes hand in hand with the permit fee increase. At that same time, I'm going to try to eliminate some deposits, right? I feel like it's an unneeded step. So we're going to clean that process up. Just some things like that where I think we can clean up. So as far as unneeded steps, building codes is pretty simple. I mean, it's footing inspection, insulation, and framing. So, I mean, the steps are the steps. But as far as the beginning, like I said, just trying to clean up, not require as much, like the deposits. I don't know why we did that. It's just a waste of money, time for y'all to write checks and then get the money back. That's a waste of staff time. So I feel like there are ways, and I've implemented our part of commercial plan review. Planning is fixing to work on theirs. So, maybe planning can see some areas that they can touch on to help progress. And then also, anytime that I can eliminate a step, feel free to reach out to me if you guys think there's a step that, hey, why do we do this? And if we haven't designed the workflow yet, we can look at it. So.
Great. Any new business? Not, we're adjourned.